Hi, everybody. It's Richard here again. I'm with a very special guest. I want to introduce Mr. John Heaton. How are you, John?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're here to discuss this album here, which is the ABBA's ninth album, the first since 1981, which is 40 years. But before we go through the track listing, John, I believe that you're very similar to me when it comes to ABBA. You grew up with them in the 70s as a young kid, loved them. And then whenever you hit a teenager, you decided you didn't love them anymore. And then you cut yourself
Uh,
on and you love them again. Would that be?
yeah, it wasn't not quite that simple. I mean, I remember seeing SOS on Top of the Pops, but the first record I remember owning was Christmas '77. My dad gave me and my brother and sister a single each, and mine was Name of the Game, ABBA.
Mhm.
Uh, and I saw the ABBA the album in the shops a couple of months later, and I was very tempted, but it was a lot of money for a 14-year-old, and I couldn't quite afford it. But yeah, then later on, I went through a couple of years of not liking them because it wasn't very trendy to like them at school. But I soon saw the error of my ways. So that didn't last long.
I was similar. My brother was the one that bought the records because he was 4 years older than me. And his first single he bought was Mamma Mia. And in fact, he bought the full string from Mamma Mia up to and including Take a Chance on Me, along with the Greatest Hits album, which is one of the best albums ever released. I see that right behind you there. Fantastic album. And he also bought Arrival. So I didn't buy any of the records. But the 1979 stuff, I was 13 and I was no longer an ABBA fan. But when a year later, when The Winner Takes It All and Super Trooper came out, that's whenever I started buying the singles. And it's really only in the 90s whenever I got into buying CDs. The ABBA catalogue you couldn't get until 1997, whenever they released it. And then they released it again in 2001. And I bought both sets as well as the deluxe version.
On
So
CD or vinyl?
CD, but I had already had a couple of vinyl albums in the 80s when nobody was looking. I would sort of sneak them. I didn't really want anyone to know I bought ABBA albums, but I did have Voulez-Vous. I bought it about 85, and I bought the Greatest Hits Volume 2. I got it for Christmas in 1981, actually. So I did. So yeah, but it was the CDs that made me become a huge ABBA fan. Okay, so firstly, I want to ask you, how did you feel whenever the two songs, I Still Have Faith in You and Don't Shut Me Down, finally came out? We've been waiting for about 3 years for them, and they finally dropped in
Yeah.
September.
Well, it got to the stage really where I'd given up waiting because it was been imminent for the last 2 years, and then kept on getting delayed. And then I was actually in England when they came out, and I listened to them, and I was a bit underwhelmed by the first one, Still Have Faith in You, to begin with, and pretty impressed by Don't Shut Me Down. And then after the many lessons since, I would still say I prefer Don't Shut Me Down of the two. I Still Have Faith in You. I don't think it's quite as epic as some of the critics are saying, but I seem to be in the minority. So I just didn't think it was as powerful a ballad as, say, Like an Angel Passing Through My Room from Frida on The Visitors. I don't know how you feel about that song.
Well, I'll come to that whenever we go through the actual songs.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Okay, whenever I first heard that this was coming out, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. I, like you, had given up on the two songs. Funnily enough, I was the other way around. I thought Don't Shut Me Down was a fair enough single in an ABBA style, quite upbeat. But it was the other one, I Still Have Faith in You, that blew me away. I thought it was amazing. It was similar in a way to I Wonder Departure, or even I Let the Music Speak from The Visitors. There is a bit of a like a West End musical type show tune, about it. And I can understand that because Benny has been writing a lot of that stuff. So that has actually come through in this. but I thought Frida's vocals were absolutely magnificent, even at the start where there's a little bit of fragility in the very first line she sings. But I think she sings absolutely perfect. Now, the guitar backing, I think, is really good as well. It just increases. It is a little bit like a power ballad, but it's not a sickly sweet power ballad. I think this song is amazing, and it's the one tune of the whole album that really sticks in my head, and I really cannot get rid of it. So I give this one an A+ to start with anyway. I know you're not overly keen on that song, but to me,
yeah, I'm just wondering what, maybe it wasn't the best choice for a single. I mean, it's a decent enough album track. It doesn't seem to, well, it didn't do so well, did it, in the charts? What was Don't Shut Me Down got to number 9, and this got to what?
14.
14,
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just maybe my standards are so high when it comes to ABBA ballads, comparing something like My Love, My Life, or even the track you mentioned, I Wonder. I just think the melody is stronger on those two tracks. But anyway, I don't want to spend the whole review slagging off the track. So like you, just immense excitement when we heard a whole album was coming out. I mean, just unbelievable. 40 years wait. I never thought it would happen.
I never did either.
And it literally is the most momentous reunion I can think of. It really is. I can't think of anything to compare, because when the Beatles got back together, John Lennon was dead, so that doesn't really count. And they only made 2 songs. Here, they've made a whole album. I mean, it's just incredible. Apparently,
it may not even be over for them, although Benny says, yes, it is. Frida says, never say never. And in a further interview, Benny said, well, the only way that he would do it is if he was persuaded by the girls. Yeah. So all I'm saying is Frida and Agneta pile on the pressure, because, I want as much as I can, and one more would be fantastic. If not, to me, this is actually a good finish, but I would love to see another one. I'm just greedy.
Yeah, well, I think we are the fans are getting greedy, because we've only just got this one already thinking about the next one.
Well, that's very true.
But I think, overall, we're so, well, us fans at least are so impressed with so many things. The production, the vocals for Agneta and Frida, still top notch. Benny's arrangements and keyboard playing, superb. The Stockholm Orchestra. I mean, the only slight disappointment for me is that Bjorn doesn't appear to be strumming his guitar at all, which is a bit of a surprise.
It is. It actually makes me wonder how much he actually did play on the classic ABBA hits, though. I wonder if he actually
just in the videos.
Just in the videos.
No, I think he probably did strum along, but he never seemed to be the lead guitarist for sure. But anyway, or maybe he's got slightly arthritic fingers, and maybe a reason we don't know.
Possibly.
He is in mid-70s, isn't he? So.
Okay, second track, When You Danced With Me. I'll let you go with that one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really feel-good track. I mean, put it on loud. My son Tommy came into the room when I was playing it the other day, and he was not impressed. But that's him. He's entitled to his opinion. I think it's a delightful song. I think the lyrics are interesting. Kilkenny, that's nowhere near where you live, is it?
No, it's in the Republic of Ireland. I've been through it. It's small town,
Yeah, I think it's really nice, Irish feel to it, and it's like reminded me a bit of the Piper from Super Trooper.
I thought that as well, a bit like the Piper, and a little bit of Dum Dum Diddle in there as well.
Yeah.
When I first heard it, I didn't like it. I thought it was too upbeat. It was almost too sickly sweet. Second time, I liked it a lot more than I did the first time. And the more I played this, the more I actually love it. Even the Kilkenny lyric actually made me wince a little bit, thinking these were 4 Swedish people, or well, 3 Swedish, 1 Norwegian, singing about Kilkenny. what have they got to do with Kilkenny? I'm sure they've never been anywhere near Kilkenny in their life. But I just thought it was just too upbeat. But now I absolutely love it. And it's actually the fourth single, and it has charted very lowly, about 60 something or whatever. But it was the fourth single. So I give it a thumbs up now, but I didn't like it at the time.
So yeah, that Kilkenny line reminds me a bit of the line from Super Trooper when I called you last night from Glasgow. But in Bjorn's defense, I'm not sure where in the UK, but he did live in the UK for a few years in the 80s. Yeah. So he was familiar with this village fete concept, apparently. But I don't know, do you know where he lived?
I have no idea. I know Frida lived on Henley-on-Thames, wherever that is. I know it's obviously near. He lived there for quite a few years, I think in the 90s.
That's where George Harrison lived. I wonder if they bumped into each other in the pub.
Oh, they may have, but she lived there for a while, so that's all I know. But so you give that when you dance with me a thumbs up?
Yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Yeah. Okay, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 as well. I'm giving I Still Have Faith in You a 9, by the way.
Okay, I'm giving it a 6. Sorry.
All right. Little Things.
Yeah. A lot of people have tried to have a go at this for, predictably, really. But I mean, it's not a surprise that ABBA should release a song like this, because I Have a Dream was released as a Christmas single in '79 and did very well. And that's got the children's choir on it, and it's got a lovely melody. This is similar. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just love it. I mean, it's not the greatest song on earth, but it's nice lyrics. And I'm not sure how I would enjoy playing this song the whole year round, but given the time of year we're in, I don't have a problem with it at all.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, given the time we're in, because it's actually making me feel a little Christmassy now. I know we're coming to the end of November, and I'm actually getting that Christmas feeling. I like it. Again, the first listen, I thought it was too sugary sweet. It's a sort of song that a little girl would buy her grandmother for Christmas, the 7-inch single. The first thing I thought was, there's no one quite like Grandma, the St. Winifred's School Choir, and I thought, oh God. But again, repeated listens, and I've got to like it. It's still probably the weakest on the album for me. I do like the children's choir at the end. If it wasn't for that, I think it would be quite bland throughout, but the children's choir actually makes it. I would give it a 7 out of 10. So
I'll give it an 8, I think. I was noticing it's the same school, International School of Stockholm. Yes. It's called the same school, not the same kids, of course, but they drew the kids from the same school back in the day with I Have a Dream. So that was interesting. And I like the picture sleeve for the single. I hope it is released as a 7-inch, not as just a CD, but I haven't heard confirmation of that. Have you?
I haven't. I don't think it will be released at all. Maybe it may chart through downloads, but you can't give your granny a download for Christmas or a stream. So it would be nice to see a 7-inch single. The only 7-inch single that has been released from the album is I Still Have Faith in You.
Yeah.
The other 3 have been CDs, or the other 2 have been CDs.
And quite annoyingly, just 1-track CDs, so no incentive really to pick them up. I mean, I don't know if you did, but I didn't bother.
Yeah, I did just for completeness sake, and it's a 1-track 7-inch single as well. So
yeah,
well, that's the way it is. I would have thought that the single would have had "Don't Shut Me Down" the other side as a double A side, but not to be. Okay, "Don't Shut Me Down."
Presumably presumably, I was going to say, presumably this means, Richard, that there's not loads of leftover tracks from the new album. Otherwise, they would have put them on the B-side, right?
Exactly. But my theory is, if they can work with Just an Ocean, there's quite a few on the Undeleted that they could have worked on.
Yeah,
I'm hoping they would do that, because there's some corkers on there. So there's some really good tracks on that Undeleted medley. And Just an Ocean wasn't even my favorite.
Yeah, just like that's one of them, right?
Oh, that's the Holy Grail. That's the one. If
Yeah.
they were just to release that, I would say, okay, fair enough. Don't bother doing an album, but release that song because it is excellent. Now they have said that Gemini, that's Karen and Anders Glenmark, they do the ultimate version of it. And since they've done it, they don't want to go back to the ABBA. They changed the actual verse completely, made it much slower. It's a good song, but to me, the saxophone ABBA version, there's three ABBA versions. There's the demo, the na 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 nas, and the saxophone. The saxophone version is magnificent, and apparently it is fully completed as well. And I would just love that to be released, even as a bonus. Now Benny knows that the fans are really wanting this, and he's just being steadfast. He said no, no. He says the verse does not match the chorus, and I say crap, it does. But he knows better.
Well, again, let's just be grateful that we've got a whole album of new stuff. You know, we can't have everything.
Yeah, well, can always ask for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, don't shut me down.
Yeah, this is just glorious. I mean, on the first listening, I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't realize quite how catchy it was, and it's just infectious. It's a 9 out of 10 for me, and I've always had a soft spot for Agnieszka, and she sings it beautifully. Very moving lyrics. You know, I wouldn't shut her down.
Yeah, well, what about the 40 seconds intro with the slower part? Do you think it works? And then it finishes with that slower part. Could you have done without that and just gone straight?
No, not really. Not really. I think it adds to the charm. I mean, again, like with so many of these songs on this album, they kind of grow on you, and you just the arrangement becomes second nature after a while, and you just can't imagine it any other way. It's really quite bizarre. It's almost like these songs, I've listened to this album maybe 20 times, and they're already kind of in my psyche, you know. I just feel as if I know them pretty well. Yeah. They're almost becoming standards, and it's ridiculous. It's only been out 2 weeks.
Enough, I listened to it constantly for the first week, and I started getting a little bit sick of it. And I left it for a few days. And whenever I came back to it, my views changed completely. It had just gone really up in my estimations. Yeah, I was about to rank this probably last of all the albums. It's certainly not last now. That little break of about 5 days has done me the world of good, because some of the songs, one in particular, when we'll come to, I just didn't like at all. But now it is pretty damn good. Don't Shut Me Down. Yeah, I give it an 8.5. I'm giving half marks here. Yes, it's got that ABBA feel. It's got the Dancing Queen run down the piano keys. The song that reminds me the most of is Super Trooper. It's got that sort of bump sort of type sound to it. It must be the bass or whatever.
Yeah, but it's more upbeat. Super Trooper to me was not my favorite. It's not just because of the Glasgow line. I just found the tune a bit generic and not as inventive as some of their other tunes. Compared to The Winner Takes It All, it's just not on the same level. But anyway, that was Super Trooper.
You'll have to disagree in that one because it's one of my favorites.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, Don't Shut Me Down. It is the best choice for the single of this album. I give it 8.5. Very, very good. Okay, Just an Ocean. This one, I think I'm giving it a 9. I was worried about this. Whenever I saw the track listing, I thought, I hope they are going to re-record the vocals, because the young vocals will not sit in well with the older vocals around the rest of the songs. But I was wrong. I think it fits perfectly. And the added instrumentation by Benny is absolutely amazing. That piano at the start, it's almost like a honky tonk type piano to bring it in, and it's one of the most uplifting tunes out. Absolutely love it. And then the wee quirky bit at the end that goes off kilter a little bit just makes it fantastic, fantastic song. Maybe that should have been the first single, I don't know, but that there gets the 9 with I Still Have Faith in You.
Yeah.
Brilliant song, and it's such an improvement. Thing is, John, a lot of DJs have taken those snippets from the Undeleted and tried to make full songs out of it and put them on YouTube, and they very quickly get deleted. Whenever I see them, I record them, download them, and I have adjusted the notion of 3.5 minutes long, and it's not a patch on what this version is. This version is magnificent. So it gets a full 9.
Yeah, well, actually, perhaps, fortunately for me, I wasn't even aware. I hadn't even listened to that "Thank You for the Music" Undeleted piece until a couple of weeks ago. So this song was coming new to me. I heard it was old vocals from the Voulez-Vous sessions, and you can understand why perhaps it wasn't released on that album, because it was a bit out of kilter with what the mood they were trying to go with on that album. But what a glorious song. I mean, it's perhaps more reminiscent of their earlier happy-go-lucky style. But I did a ranking the other day and I gave it a 9, but today I'm going to give it a 10, just because it's so joyous. And you're right, Benny's just done marvels with the production. Reminded me a bit of Remember You're a Womble.
Yes.
Or Wombling Merry Christmas. A little bit of Mike Batt in there, but
I'm sure you do play Wombling Merry Christmas every Christmas. I do. It's one of the top 3 Christmas parties.
Richard, I mean, my mother still lives in Wimbledon. I grew up in Wimbledon, so if you come from Wimbledon, it's compulsory to like the Wombles anyway. So I used to spend the whole of my time at school persuading. I was at boarding school in Sussex, and I was persuading them the Wombles actually did exist, and I saw them on a regular basis.
Who was your favourite Womble? I know we're getting off topic here, but who was your favourite Womble?
Have to be Orinoco, I think.
Mine was always Tomsk. He was a bit thick on it, but he was strong.
Yeah, no, I like Tomsk. Yeah, Bongo, Wellington, excellent. So yeah. What a glorious track. What a glorious track.
Yeah, it just goes to show there are other, as I say, there are other songs that Undeleted, which I would love them to work on, even if they're not going to write any more songs, an EP of some of those songs and finish them off, especially a song called Hamlet. There's an instrumental part, and then there's a version called Autumn Leaves, where the girls are singing and their voices are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Benny then did record that as Lotus Schlotus on his Kinga Minga Clocker accordion album. It's just him playing the accordion. Good to hear once, but accordion music, it's all right. Just nice to have. But that one in particular is the one I would love them to do. I thought it was a traditional song, but I was looking up and on the Benny album, and it's actually an Ulvaeus Anderson song, so it's one of their own. So okay. It should. Okay, right. We'll go on to the next one. I Can Be That Woman. I'll let you start with this one.
This is my favorite track on the album. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I just think it's glorious. Agnieszka, heartbreaking lyric, heartbreaking vocal. I wasn't sure if it was quite as good as My Love, My Life or something when I first heard it, but if it's not quite as good, it's pretty damn near up there for me. I mean, it's just a lovely melody. And I admire the subject matter of what they're trying to sing about, alcohol abuse and, trying to express regret over how things have gone and trying to, make things better. I think it's very mature lyric. In fact, the whole of this album lyrically reminded me of the mature period rather than the earlier stuff.
Well, this is the one I didn't like at all at the start. I thought it was the very first listen. I thought this is okay. It's not a bad song. And then I played it a few times. And I thought ABBA do country because it sounds like a country song with the verses at the start. However, as I say, after leaving it for 5 days, it has really, really grown on me. I do think some of the lyrics are a little bit too direct. Whenever you bring in the dog and the dog licks her hands, and what's the name of the dog called again?
Tammy.
Tammy. You know, whenever you first hear Agneta singing, he's lying on the sofa with Tammy, you automatically think it's some girl and not a dog. And then you find out it's the dog. The dog wags its tail or swishes its tail, licks her hand. I just thought some of the lyrics were a little bit too direct and they could be a little bit more subtle. But it has grown on me an awful lot. Especially the second half, whenever the backing vocals come in. Frida's backing vocals, and then there's more instrumentation. I think it's a little bit sparse at the start. But if I was to rank this about a week and a half ago, I would have given it a 4. It's up to a 7 now, so I'm really got to like it. It's really grown on, and it'll probably grow.
I like the line, "The reproach in her eyes is imagined." I think that's quite a nice line, because you know the way sometimes dogs look at you and they have a sad expression on their face. They look like their heart's going to break.
Exactly.
And then, but they're just hungry. They just want some food, probably.
So yeah, it's the most improved song for me, without a doubt. Okay, we'll go on to Keep an Eye on Dan.
Well, this is another one which has grown on me considerably. I didn't think it was bad to begin with, but it was a little bit strange. And when I first heard the track listing for the album, I thought, "Keep an Eye on Dan, what the hell could that be about?" But you can understand why they didn't want to use the names of their real children. So, and again, I admire the subject matter. It's not a subject covered very often by people. Divorced couple sharing a kid. I think it's delightful, and Benny is all over those keyboards as usual.
Do you think the sound of the synth on it is maybe a little bit too dancey or modern or contemporary? It sounds like something you would hear in a rave.
A little. Well, I wouldn't say contemporary, because I think the one thing I'll say about this album is it could have come out in 1983. It could have been the follow-up to The Visitors. They've just kept the same sound, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a glorious thing. But I think if you're referring to that synthesizer break in the middle of the song, it is a little bit over the top, perhaps. It's almost as if they crank up the volume here. But, you know, I think on the other hand, I've watched some of these reaction videos where you watch girls playing the album and dancing along to it, and it's interesting to see their reaction when they're listening to this song and others. I'm a bit obsessed recently. I've been watching a lot of videos relating to this album.
I've only watched a few. There's a German guy that's given a few videos, very good. But this song, I like it. I especially like Bjorn's backing vocals, that you finally hear some Bjorn at the end with his. I'm not too sure what he's singing. Probably Keep an Eye on Dan, but you can.
I was going to say that not very easy to distinguish what he's singing.
But I think that's the one thing this album's missing, is a Bjorn song. I always like to have a Bjorn song, no matter how crap it was. You know, I always liked Bjorn to have one lead vocal. But this is the one that makes me shout out, is there any of that, auto-tuner being used in any of the girls' voices? Because near the end, I hear something that doesn't sound quite right with the vocals. And I don't know whether there's a little bit of auto-tune involved or not. I must listen to it again and find out, but it's the first time I thought, oh, is there something going on here? Have they used auto-tune? They are in their mid-70s. So
all that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm a member of a couple of ABBA groups on Facebook, and they've been discussing this album, as you can imagine, to death. And I don't think I've heard that mentioned. I'm sure someone would have pointed out if it was the case.
I hope
I don't
not.
know. Yeah.
Maybe it's just my ears. So this one, I would give it probably a 7.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 as well.
Okay, Bumblebee, the Frida track.
Another track which has grown on me. I thought it was quite pleasant to begin with, but I think the tune is a memorable one. And it's, you were saying which track sticks in your head. I mean, this tune, once it gets to you, it's in there and that's it. And there's no way it's going to leave until I die, basically. And I like the lyric. I mean, it's a little bit cheesy, maybe, but that's ABBA for you. You know, that they've always written sentimental tracks, and this is another one, and she sings it beautifully.
I think it's gorgeous. I really do. But I'm the opposite. I can't keep that tune in my head. If I was to sing all these songs, I can never remember how Bumblebee goes. But once it starts, I love it. I think there's a little bit of Fernando in there, but not much. But I do think there's quite a bit of The Way Old Friends Do, the feeling of it in that song.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful. I really do. The Way Old Friends
Yeah.
Do is one of my favorite songs of theirs anyway. But yeah, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I'm giving it an 8.5.
Yeah, I'll match that.
Okay. Okay, 2 more. No doubt about it.
I'm not generally a huge fan of their up-tempo numbers, but I think this is a really good upbeat track. I mean, I'm referring to things like On and On and On. It was never my favorite, Hole in Your Soul, likewise. But this one is uplifting, it's vigorous, and it's great to see them back with a upbeat rocker, and they're singing it well.
Totally agree. Totally agree. The chorus reminds me of Hole in Your Soul, but I think this is a much better song than Hole in Your Soul. The chorus itself is almost frantic. They're trying to get as many words in as possible, and there's a little bit of a hiccup, you know, between lines. It's intentional, and I think it works so well. I think it's magnificent. I'm giving that one again an 8.5. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. Yeah.
Okay, and can I go first with the last one?
Yep, sure.
Which is Ode to Freedom. And this album gets my first 10. I think this is perfect. And if they're never to release another album again, this is the song to go out on. Absolutely beautiful. I love the strings. I know it's a classical. You're saying that in your last video that it was from Swan Lake, the music, part of the music.
But it's only the first 4. It's only the first 4 notes that it that. Nothing else, from what I can tell. Anyway, I'm not an expert.
Well, this is, I think it's about 3 minutes long, and it's absolutely beautiful. The voices are gorgeous, and I think the whole 4 of them singing this, or is it just the girls? I think the whole lot of them, because there is.
No, it sounds like all of them. Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful way to go out, and it's my favorite track off the album. Love it, absolutely love it.
Yeah, well, the other day I think I gave this one a 9, but I'm going to give it a 10 today. Just convinced me. It's just beautiful. I wasn't sure whether that was a real orchestra or whether it was Benny on the keyboards, but it sounds like it's the Stockholm Orchestra. I think they're credited on the album, right? So yeah, it's real strings, and it sounds like it. And yeah, so they nicked the first 4 notes from Swan Lake. Well, so what? That was 130 years old. So just lovely, uplifting lyrics. So not actually that optimistic, the lyric, a little bit touched with realism as well, right?
Yeah. It's the feel of the song. Whenever I hear this, all I can see in my mind is the 4 people walking away down a path into the mist, and the girls going their way and the boys going their way, and it's so sad. It's almost to say, this is it all over. And it's just a beautiful way to end this album. I love it, absolutely love it.
Yeah. Do you You just reminded me of the video for Under Attack at the end where they walk away into the light. Remember?
That's right. Yes, that must be where I got it from. But yeah, no, that's my number one. You see, whenever I first saw this track listing, I thought, what on earth is I Still Have Faith in You doing as the opening track? And then when I heard Ode to Freedom, I thought, well, I'm glad it's not the closing track. And then I thought, where could I put I Only Have Faith in You? And there is only one place to put it, and that is as the opener. So they got the track listing correct, I think. But overall, what do you think? I'm not going to say where would you rank. Well, I am going to say where would you rank it? Would you rank it in the top half, bottom half, or somewhere in the middle?
Well, just before we get there, I picked up this album today, the Live at Wembley, because I watched an ABBA album ranking on YouTube last night, and I can't remember his name, but he had this at number one.
Yes, I know.
I was absolutely ashamed that I didn't actually own it. So I've got the video, which is more or less the complete concert, I think, the DVD. But I look forward to listening to this because it sounds like the live quality is pretty much matching the studio.
It's a very, very good album. It is. It's not the number one album though. Like all live albums, they fall behind the studio for me. But I do have that. I've actually got it on vinyl as well, so that's nice to have.
Okay, yeah. So back to your question. Well, it's funny because the early albums, to me, contain some of my favorite ABBA stuff, but as albums, they're not that consistent. I would say that for the first three. I think Arrival was the first album where it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Mm-hmm. So that earlier period to me is represented best by the Greatest Hits album, because maybe that's because the one I grew up with. So, and then after that, they just didn't know how to make a bad album at all. I mean, they're just all. Super Troopers is my least favorite as an album, probably, of the ones that followed. I would put this new album slightly ahead of the first three, and maybe slightly ahead of Super Trooper, but behind the other four.
So you've got it right bang in the middle.
Yeah.
So have I. Right bang at number 5. Now my top 4 would be The Visitors and Arrival. Probably Arrival first. Voulez-Vous and Super Trooper. I'm not a huge fan of ABBA the album. I think it's got 4 magnificent songs off it, and then some that are a bit dodgy. But this one I can see overtaking Super Trooper and Voulez-Vous. So I will never touch Arrival or The Visitors, never in a million years, because those two are untouchable. But I can see this at its best getting to number 3.
Yeah, I think it might overtake the album if I'm pushed, but I've got a soft spot for the album because, you know, that I was so familiar with those singles, Name in the Game and Take a Chance. I had them both on 45, and that was when I first got into ABBA. So, okay, I watched the movie the other night, ABBA the movie. It's okay. It's quite amusing. But especially the bit in the lift at the end, when the reporter gets in the lift and he's got all 4 members of ABBA. It's just such a great scene.
Did you ever see the one, is it the final video or the last video where they're puppets?
Yeah, I did see that.
That is fantastic with Rick Mail in it. That scene of them coming out of the lift from 1978 is also in that video. And the puppets are going like this at them and they're saying good luck. It's really, really funny. Really good video. It's only about 6 minutes long or whatever, but it's well worth it.
Was it a video for Thank You for the Music? Or?
No, it's actually, I'm not too sure. It came out in the 90s and I got it on DVD, but you can get it on YouTube, just the last video. And it's these puppets, they're auditioning to Rick Mail, who is a music producer, and everyone's loving it. Every member of ABBA is actually in the video. You get little cameo appearances of them there and then, but not at the same time, unfortunately. And even Cher's in it, but she always gets into ABBA videos. But yeah, it's really, really good. Rick Mail is hilarious. And the one song I don't want to spoil it for you. Watch it. It's only about, say, 10
I
minutes.
have. I'm sure I have watched it. I just can't remember which song is featured. And what year was this video made in?
I think it was about 2006 or something like that there, or
Oh,
2000.
that late. So when you say they appear in the video, you mean they appear as their modern day self?
Yes, you'll see Bjorn sitting on the sofa. Benny is, I think, up at the hotel reception. Agneta and Frida are both in the gallery, but not at the same time. So they all make little appearances. It's really, really good. And Rick Mail is very funny as well. I miss him, actually. I think he's a very funny guy.
Yeah.
But he's very good as well. And you have to try and name as many ABBA songs as possible. I think they mentioned something like about 25 songs, and you're going, oh, right, we better write that one down. And I even got Watch Out. I think there's one I'm missing, and I still can't get it. But they go through all these ABBA songs. It's really good fun. Really good fun.
Okay, great.
You'll enjoy it. Okay, so overall, pretty good. Very happy. And you couldn't expect it anymore, really. And just keep our fingers crossed that there's another one coming. I really hope there is.
What did you make of the reviews? They were a bit mixed, I thought.
They are mixed. The Guardian was a bit scathing.
The Guardian was ridiculous. I know I'm biased. The Telegraph was, considering they'd slagged off the album before it even came out the previous week, they at least gave it 3 stars. The Times 4, and the Independent, God bless them, 5. So
I don't really pay much attention to these, because even with myself, if I had reviewed this with the first listen, I would probably give it 3. Now I'm giving it 4.5.
Yeah.
You do have to listen to stuff, and you also have to separate away from it for a while and come back to it and see if it sounds better whenever you do that. I actually put every single ABBA album on an MP3 disc and played them to and from work this past week. Every one of them. It's changed my views on what my favorite ABBA albums are. Those early ones I absolutely love now. I really do. Absolutely love. There is some corny songs on them, but I would automatically have put Ring Ring at the bottom, but it's no longer the bottom album for me.
No, because how can that be at the bottom when with songs like Another Town, Another Train?
Exactly.
It's just one of Bjorn's best.
But then how can Waterloo be at the bottom with songs like Hasta Mañana and Dance While the Music Still Goes On, Honey Honey, and even Susie Hangaround, which I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the only ABBA song that Benny takes lead vocals on. Yeah,
it is. To be honest with you, well, first of all, Dance While the Music Still Goes On, I thought was the weak link on ABBA Greatest Hits. I didn't quite think it belonged on there for me. Hasta Mañana, I agree, 10 out of 10. Someone was criticizing me for pronouncing that wrong. What is the correct pronunciation in Spanish?
Well, I've always thought it was Hasta Mañana.
Hasta Mañana, okay.
Susie
Hangaround. Susie Hangaround. You can see why Benny was not asked to sing lead again. It's a weak track. It's a disastrous lyric, and really quite a cruel lyric by modern day standards. Because you're talking about someone who wants to be their friend, and they're basically telling her to get lost.
Yeah. Suppose we're not modern. It's got a very Birds feel to it, though. It's got that sort of jiggly jangly guitar, which I like. And Hasta Mañana, it was between it and Waterloo for the Eurovision Song Contest. And I think Waterloo they picked because they preferred it, although they would have thought that Hasta Mañana would have done better. They picked the right one.
Well, I prefer Hasta Mañana as a track, maybe because I haven't overheard it. I just think the melody is just one to die for. And which brings us on nicely to your final question.
Okay. Which one?
Well, I had a picture of Agneta in my wallet, so for years and years. She was the I don't have it here, but it was the single. It was the picture of her in the yellow top from one of those single covers. Can't remember, where they had the 4 individual portraits. I didn't have a. Did I have a poster of ABBA? I had 2 Blondie posters at school. I don't think I had an ABBA poster for some reason. But recently, I've just been picking up all these albums which I never owned, like Greatest Hits Volume 2 and the first 10 years, because I just think as a completist I need to own everything. And actually, it's quite interesting how at the time I thought the first 10 years was a cheeky, not very accurate title, because it looked like it was going to be the end, right? And then now, wonderfully, it isn't.
Yeah, and hopefully, as I say, there's going to be more. Well, when it comes to ABBA posters, my brother had one. It's quite infamous. It's the one where they've no clothes on, but they've got tinfoil all around them. And he had that on his wall. Now, he would have been 14 at the time. I would have been 10. So that's the one I remember the most. And luckily, you said Agneta, John. Otherwise, I would have been challenging you to a duel. Muskets at dawn, if you had said Frida, because Frida was my number 1. So we're okay.
Well, I mean, I think they were both very attractive women. I mean, I think Frida's peak was the Arrival album, ABBA the album period. I think that's when she looked her most gorgeous for me.
I admit that sometimes Frida's hairstyles were a little bit dodgy, but still. The performance, if you ever see the performance of her doing Why Did It Have to Be Me live, the energy the girl gives, she's just great fun. She even goes like that there with her muscles.
Yeah, actually, I was watching that the other day, because that's on the ABBA the movie, isn't it? Yeah. And am I right in saying that Agneta is missing from that performance? Because no, I only noticed.
I think only from that song.
Yeah, but so what was wrong? Was she feeling ill, or she went off stage for that, or what?
Probably went for a drink. It's probably one of those cases where the 2 lead singers weren't needed. So Agneta probably did another song on her own, and Frida went off for a cup of tea or something like that there.
Or a fag break, because she was a smoker in those days, I think.
Possibly.
But it just seems strange, because I don't recall that happening very often. And they both sing on the album, so you know that harmony is what makes one of the things which makes the song. So I was a bit surprised. Maybe someone in the comments can tell us why, if there's any other reason why Agneta would. Is it just a fag break, or is there something deeper?
She might have to go to the toilet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, well, that's it. So, thanks for coming on, John. It's great having you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
And anything to do with ABBA and the Wombles, of course, I'm in there.
Yeah.
I even did a video on the Wombles a couple of years ago. I love them that much. But anyway, that's me for now, folks. And I hope to have another video quite soon. And thanks again, John. Okay.
All right.
All the best. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.